Hawaii, a tropical paradise in the heart of the Pacific Ocean. But the lush rainforest hides a boiling volcanic core.
A lot of people say, "Where's the volcano?" not realizing that they're standing on one.
This is the world's largest volcano. An eruption could smother the very island it's created.
A volcanic event in Mauna Loa, that could be catastrophic.
But Mauna Loa is not alone. The fiery pits of Kilauea are pumping out hundreds of tons of dangerous gases.
It's time to put our gas masks on.
But the Hawaiians aren't giving up their island without a fight. Their volcano scientists are blazing new trails to stay one step ahead of the lava.
There should be no surprises with the next eruption.
These volcanoes are part of life in Hawaii. This is Lava Land. Isolated in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the islands of Hawaii are home to 1.4 million people and host to millions more tourists, as well as 6 active volcanoes. Director of Civil Defense Ben Fuata has the tough job of keeping every one of them safe from the threat of a volcanic eruption.
I'm responsible for approximately 182,000 residents of this island and anybody who comes to visit to protect them and prepare them for any natural disaster that may occur. I worry so you don't have to.
The Big Island alone is as large as Jamaica, and it's home to nearly 200,000 people. With geography working against him, Ben has to call in the air support. Dominating the island is the world's largest volcano, Mauna Loa.
Mauna Loa has the opportunity of, if it ever explodes, to be very catastrophic.
The challenges would be the possibility of east and west of the Big Island being severed by the lava flow.
And just 35 kilometers south is Kilauea, a volcano that's been erupting constantly for the last 30 years. The fate of the islanders rests on Ben knowing what's happening inside these unpredictable giants. But to find that out, some brave soul must get up close to the lava. Today, it's Matt Patrick leading the charge. He's been a constant presence on the lava flows for the last 6 years and knows their movements better than anyone else. But since lava cut off the roads, just getting out there is no mean feat.
We're out here on the coastal plain updating our map of the lava flow field. And the way we update the map is simply to walk along the margin with our GPS, taking periodic waypoints.
With communities in reach of Kilauea, it's essential the authorities know where these flows are and where they're headed. But finding out is hot work.
One of the most common challenges is just heat exhaustion. So like where I'm standing right now, it's kind of like opening an oven. But when you walk just a few feet closer to the flow, it gets really intense and extremely unpleasant.
Matt is just one of a highly specialized team. Chasing lava for more than a century, the scientists at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory have been going to the ends of the earth to protect the people of Hawaii.
When HVO was first founded, we had one employee. Now, 100 years later, we have a staff of about 25 and pushing 150 or 200 instruments in the ground. It's a big operation.
And perched on the rim of Kilauea, they've always had the perfect lookout.
HVO currently monitors 6 volcanoes within the state of Hawaii. One is a submarine volcano offshore. The 2 most active are Kilauea and Mauna Loa. Kilauea has been erupting continuously for 30 years, for the last 5 years at 2 locations. And so we understand a lot about the hazards posed by Kilauea lava flows. Mauna Loa is quite a different volcano. It doesn't appear to have the same intensity of explosive past as Kilauea, but its real hazard lies in its size. And so it can have much larger lava flows that move much faster.
It's up to Jim and his team to work out just when the constant eruptions from the volcanoes become a threat to the people of Hawaii.
Our mission is to provide timely and accurate warnings of that activity and of earthquake activity. Assessing hazards is a tough call. It's based on a lot of history, but there's no handbook for this sort of thing. We can't exactly point to a place and say it's going to erupt next Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
Despite Jim's modesty, 100 years of concentrated study means HVO leads the world when it comes to trying to understand these unpredictable giants.
Because Hawaiian volcanoes are relatively easy to work on, a lot of techniques in the scientific study of them were developed experimentally at HVO. They were then applied all around the world, but we still have people out in the field mapping old lava flows, new lava flows, and that takes boots on the ground.
But the boiling lava on the coastal plains is only one of Kilauea's many dangers. And wherever there are volcanic hazards, the scientists of the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory are never far behind. 20 kilometers away at the summit crater, geochemist Jeff Sutton is measuring the gases that pour out. He hopes this data will hold the key to what is going on deep within the bowels of the mountain.
The plume that's coming out of the vent right now is comprised primarily of water vapor, but there's also sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, hydrogen chloride, basically hydrochloric acid gas. Kilauea, taken by itself, is basically the largest stationary source of sulfur dioxide in the nation, head and shoulders above any other dirty power plant or factory.
In 2008, Jeff's studies changed from an academic fascination to a very real public concern.
By mid-February of 2008, the amount of sulfur dioxide coming out was so much that it was causing a real deterioration in air quality, and visitors were repeatedly having to be hauled out by the rescue squad because of respiratory emergencies. Even 20 miles downwind, the people there experience air quality that's unhealthy.
Almost overnight, a huge hole opened up in the crater floor, and the National Park's rangers closed the area to the public. Jeff's work is now more important than ever.
This is our gas mobile, and we use this vehicle with instrumentation installed on it and in it to measure the gases that are escaping from the magma. We drive this instrument underneath and through the gas plume, measuring the amount of sulfur dioxide above us.
Getting his data will take Jeff right into the heart of the plume.
The sulfur dioxide that's coming out of the volcano is immediately dangerous to life and health.
Sharing their island with this volcano means the people of Hawaii rely on HVO scientists to warn them of any hazards. While the rest of the world checks the weather forecast for storms, Hawaiians check in with civil defense for eruption updates.
We're right at the rim of the Pu'o'o vent, which is part of the Kilauea volcano. As you can see, our Hawaii Volcano Observatory has instrumentations that track the movement and also expansion of this vent in order for me to alert the public.
Even now, the molten lava is only 3 kilometers from people's homes. And Ben Fuata is relying on the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory to keep him up to date on its movements.
We'll give an early indication to civil defense if we think the flows could be heading in a certain direction, towards residential areas. Subsequent to that, we'll be out there every day. You can use satellite imagery, and we do actually, but there's really no replacement for boots on the ground. You really need somebody on the ground to look at the flow, locate where those breakouts are, and make a geologist's estimate of what the activity levels are. Over the last couple weeks, this particular flow has been relatively slow. It's moving, between 40 meters a day to maybe 100 meters a day. We've seen rates up to 400 meters a day for this type of lava.
This wave of lava is liquid rock heated to more than 1100 degrees deep within the Earth. When this high-pressure magma finds a weakness in the crust, it will spill out in a volcanic eruption.
Right now we have eruptions going on at the summit and East Rift Zone, and they're very different. The eruption on East Rift Zone, which is around Pu'u'o, is erupting from a vent, and that lava is, well, flowing through a tube and then spilling onto the surface, essentially. The summit in Halemaumau crater, the lava is contained within a lava lake. Well, when lava flows over the surface, it can flow in a number of different ways. On the coastal plain right now, we have pahoehoe, which is the more fluid form of lava. That flow front might just be, you know, something on this scale, an individual pahoehoe toe, it's called. And those toes will just kind of break out incrementally and very slowly inundate the surface.
It may be slow, but in 30 years, the flows have swamped nearly 130 square kilometers, 1 meter at a time, with an almost clockwork rhythm.
An individual lobe of pahoehoe develops a surface crust, and that really starts the process of flow inflation. It basically means that you have a solid crust, but there's still a supply of hot lava beneath the surface that's then pushing up that crust. Eventually that crust can fail, and then you get another surge, another breakout, that then advances a little bit, develops a crust, and then inflates to the point that it breaks out again. You get this cycle going on.
But it's not just science for the sake of it. These lava flows pose a very real danger to the islanders, as longtime residents know only too well.
I've been living in these areas since 1941 when I was born.
William Ka'avaloa and his family have been living in the shadow of Kilauea for generations.
The lava has always been up there from childhood days. We always knew it was there. We would look up at the ridge line and you could see a glow of the lava.
In the 1980s, the tiny community of Kalapana was a peaceful refuge from the stresses of the modern world.
Kalapana, you look at a most beautiful beach, most beautiful community, to be able to walk on the pure black sand, play in the water, play in the waves. It was just a gorgeous place to be. Now it's just solid black rock, pahoehoe.
Kilauea's eruptions had always been a distant spectacle, but in 1983, it was all brought much closer to home. Only 13 kilometers from William's house, the Pu'u'o vent split the mountain, spraying thousands of tons of liquid rock into the air. By March 1990, the fountains turned to rivers of lava, burning a path through the forest and into the towns.
It was devastating to live in the community and knowing that the lava flow is slowly consuming the community. You could hear homes burning. You could hear all that, so you know what that family is going through and the agonizing moments that they're having, only to know that, you know, it's just going to be a matter of time before you're our place. By the time it got down to us, all the homes beyond had all disappeared from the map. This whole area was as green as you could see for as far as you could see. I'm standing here and I'm looking at my property where the house was. I can remember walking towards the lava flow that particular morning when I knew the house was gonna be taken. Like, my goodness, it's got only one direction. It seems like heading straight for the house. So I left only to return the next morning to see nothing but roof iron laying on the hardened lava. That's all the remnants was left.
William wasn't alone. The huge flow that crept into Kalapana covered nearly 40 square kilometers and burned more than 180 homes. And then, in late 1990, flows high on the hills suddenly switched direction, sending lava straight for the ocean, leaving what remained of Kalapana in peace. While the eruption was a tragedy for William, thanks to the swift action of civil defense, everyone was safely evacuated. And incredibly, many have even started returning. For Ben Fuata, this is a constant cause of concern.
A lot of people have taken up residence here. In spite of the dangers, these are the people that we worry about and trying to get the word out in the event of a volcanic eruption.
Science is now vital for predicting when that might happen, and the endless lava has made the island a mecca for geologists. Professor Ken Hon has dedicated his life to understanding how Hawaiian lava flows.
Even though we tell geology students and everything, the Earth is dynamic, things change with time, this is one of the few places on Earth that you can actually see that change happen in front of your eyes.
Ken is now preparing the next generation of budding scientists in the ultimate volcano lab, only a few kilometers from their classroom. The undulating old Pahoehoe lava may look smooth, but it can be razor sharp to the touch. It's not long before the old lava claims its first student victim.
It's pure glass, so it's like walking on broken beer bottles.
This could easily have been much worse. The sharp rocks can cut to the bone. But with no more accidents, the group finally locate the active flow. Now, the real work can begin.
This time we're gonna actually try and pierce the skin of the lava where it's about half a centimeter or so thick, and then shove the thermocouple as far in as you can get it. As you approach the lava flow, there's this zone of extreme heat within a few feet. If you want to make measurements, you have to be in that critical 2 to 3 foot zone. So we brought out the suit today, right? So Matt someplace has the silver suit.
The reflective silver suit will help to block the intense heat radiating from the lava. But the baggy outfit and thick glass screen makes working there extremely difficult.
You see very little of your surroundings. Your peripheral vision and your vision downward are just terrible. If they have to get out of there, they have to get out of there, right? So give them space. The ground is so uneven out here that it would be very easy just to trip and fall, and if you do that next to the lava flows, the consequences can be pretty severe.
Volcanologists often need to know the precise temperature of the flows. Getting this data means inserting a thermocouple thermometer through the crusted rock surface and into the molten lava. For the students, this is the first time they've tried it. Even with the suit, the heat means they've got only seconds to work here.
1,135. It's steady at 1,139.
That's nearly hot enough to melt steel.
So are you getting hot there, Brian?
A little bit. Yeah, it's kind of like somebody ironing your clothes while you're wearing them.
Kind of penetrates between the sleeves and the gloves, so that was where I was getting the hottest. It was actually pretty intense there for a moment.
Sample gathering puts them further into the firing line. Even thick gloves offer little protection against the searing heat.
I feel it like really burning me. And once I get it off my hand, it started to get red, and now it's like that. So.
It's not just the students themselves who are suffering. Their scientific equipment is also no match for the brutal and destructive heat of the volcano.
Wow. That's weird. We lost the thermocouple.
We're not sure how much thermocouples cost, but I'm sure they're not cheap.
Ruined our thermocouple twice, and we've only used it twice, I think, or 3 times. So we're at about a 2/3 ruin our equipment rate right now.
You wear things out a lot faster with students than you would on your own, but that's part of the learning process, right?
They may have lost some hardware, but for the students, it has been an amazing experience. learning the challenges geologists face working where the Earth is forged.
We can look and we can watch exactly what happens step by step and record it in real life, only in Hawaii.
One day, these new skills and knowledge could save lives around the world. But perhaps the most important lesson from today is that the lava never stays still for long, as William Carvalhoa knows only too well. In 1990, his home was destroyed by lava flows that narrowly missed his mother's house. She chose to stay on in the ruins of Kalapana. But 18 years later, when the same flows returned to claim what was left of the community, civil defense told them it was time to leave.
After we got that notice of evacuation, we took most of the things that we thought we could use that was important to us and left the area, only to return to enjoy what is about to happen. Whether it would be consumed the house or not, we wanted to see with our own eyes. At the rate it was flowing, it was inevitable that if something doesn't happen, it's going to be in the front yard, or maybe the house would be gone. But to our amazement, it stopped.
Surrounded by the lush trees that once covered this whole area, the Ka'avaloa's house is a stark reminder of just how unpredictable the volcanoes can be.
Pele was always a fire goddess. Kupunas would still think that, this is her property, this is her land. We're just here temporarily and she's forever. But when you look at it, it does go through your mind, boy, how lucky are you? Are you looking after us? In the back of all of that, you still think, it's not done yet. It's still flowing up there. It's just 3 miles away. It's just not close to you. So we just have to live the fullness and enjoy everything that's around you while you can.
While William can breathe a sigh of relief for now, the scientists at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory are hard at work trying to predict the flows and on guard for a much bigger eruption. Kilauea's destructive temper means the observatory keeps the volcano under very close surveillance. And because Matt can't be out there all the time, they've turned to technology for answers.
We have about 14 webcams out now, and plus a handful of time-lapse cameras. Since I've been here, we've lost a few cameras. 2 of them were lost due to collapses. A couple weeks ago, we had a camera out on the flow field that got surrounded by lava. And we were able to actually see in the incoming images the lava come and approach the camera and surround it.
These spy cameras have started to reveal some explosive facts about the secret life of Kilauea.
Right now on Kilauea, we have 2 eruptions going on. One at the summit, and we have another eruption at Pu'uo'okone. By tracking the lava level at each respective vent, actually with cameras. And when you plot those 2 lava levels, the one at the summit and the one in the East Rift Zone, you can see that they follow one another jointly. So that suggests that there is a connection between these 2 vents. They're essentially linked in the sense that they're jointly fed from the summit magma reservoir. So you can imagine the summit magma reservoir with offshoots, conduits feeding both the summit eruption and the eruption around Pu'uo'o. The result is that we can see coupled changes at each of those eruption sites. The lava level at the summit is shown in red, and the lava level out in the East Rift Zone at Pu'uo'o is shown in blue. There are a number of cycles of rise and fall, but they're shared. Yeah, so what the drops represent, for instance, here in March of 2011 and here in August of 2011, are eruptive events out on the East Rift Zone. The analogy would be a burst pipe.
Matt is starting to put together the pieces of this natural puzzle. Knowing this volcanic plumbing inside and out will help to predict when the volcano will erupt next. But recent studies at the observatory have turned the image of Kilauea and its slow-moving lava flows completely on its head.
So right now, the activity at Kilauea and over the last 30 years has been predominantly lava flows on the surface, but in Kilauea's past, there has been explosive behavior. We just right now happen to not be in that kind of phase.
It seems that far from being a gentle giant, the current calm seems to be the exception to the rule.
Kilauea has usually been considered to be a very quiet, benign volcano, but what we found is that that's wrong. For the last 2,500 years, Kilauea has been in an explosive mode about 60% of the time.
Don's studies at the observatory have revolutionized our view of Kilauea. He's found evidence of some huge ancient eruptions here on Hawaii.
These may get up into the jet stream at 30,000 feet. We have found rocks weighing 12 tons about almost a mile from the center of the volcano, and we found golf ball-sized rocks about 12 miles from the volcano.
Hawaii's usual eruptions are driven by gases dissolved in the magma, but there seems to be a second force at work in this explosive activity.
The explosions are usually powered by steam from groundwater that gets into the system and expands and pushes out rocks. They can throw blocks out ballistically, like a shot put or a baseball coming off a bat. And they can even surge out as hurricane velocity mixtures of hot ash and air that are impossible to survive.
This activity has already hit the Hawaiian people.
In 1790, there was a pretty big eruption for Kilauea, and people were here at the time. As best we can judge, several hundred people were killed by that eruption. And they were killed within a mile or two of where we are sitting here today.
These explosions have made Kilauea the most deadly volcano on US soil. But for the ancient Hawaiians, these eruptions had supernatural roots and were carefully recorded.
One evening when I was sitting at home reading some Hawaiian chants, I started seeing things that were describing features about the volcano that I was just starting to work on. The chants seemed to say that there was probably a period lasting about 300 years, or at least a long time, when there were many explosions.
These chants are focused on Pele, the Hawaiian goddess of the volcano, whose temper has shaped the landscape.
The guts of the chant is that there were two sisters, Pele and a younger sister, that were caught in a love triangle with a guy. And Pele got angry and burned the sister's forest. And then Pele threw the guy into the volcano, and Hi'iaka dug to get the body. And that's the formation of the caldera, I think. And the fire in the forest was this huge lava flow that occurred that lasted 60 years. The chants give us a background that we just lack otherwise. If we start thinking about earthquakes and tsunamis and big storms, they may really be preserved only in the chants and the songs and the oral histories.
Even in this current period of relative calm, Kilauea is far from toothless. It was a small explosive eruption in 2008 that heralded a new period of activity here at the summit. While it's not spitting out rocks today, it is releasing tons of toxic gases. And the HVO scientists are gathering data in the thick of the action. Kilauea is the heart of the national park, and with more than 1 million tourists visiting the volcano every year, it's vital to get an accurate handle on exactly what these gases are doing.
The park was established to provide safe access to lava viewing. So people do want to come and see the lava. At the same time, we have to balance that with their safety.
Since the start of this new eruption, air pollution has become a very real problem. When the volcanic gases pouring out of Kilauea mixes with water vapor in the air, it forms a volcanic fog, or VOG, rich in sulfuric acid. VOG can spread for miles, irritating the eyes and skin, and for some people, even causing serious breathing problems. Most of the time, trade winds carry the Volk harmlessly out to sea. But when they change direction, the so-called Kona winds can blow this plume towards towns on the east of the island, and in particular, across the busy areas of the park. Keeping a close eye on this Volk is now a priority for the rangers. They must tread the fine line between keeping the park open, but making sure no one is hurt by these dangerous gases.
It is a challenge, it's a balance.
Working hand in hand with the observatory is the rangers' best shot at keeping everyone safe. Back on the rim of Halemaumau, geochemist Jeff is about to find out exactly how much sulfur dioxide is streaming out. By tracking these levels in the long term, the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory hope to predict the volcano's next move.
Okay, we're starting to register sulfur dioxide gas on the spectrometer, and so I'm going to be putting my gas mask on now.
Levels are now high enough to create potentially lethal concentrations, up to 1 kilometer downwind.
Air outside the vehicle has become pretty dense. It's pretty hard to see through this.
We'll be driving in clean air, clean air, clean air, and then all of a sudden it's like hitting a fog bank. Sometimes you actually have a difficult time seeing where the road is, and then you burst out of the other side and all of a sudden it's clear again. We got some good data today. The plume was dense, it was kind of coming down to the ground. My guess is there was probably 500 or 600 or 700 metric tons of sulfur dioxide coming out of the top of Kilauea.
While the people of Hawaii struggle with these toxic gases, the plants and animals have evolved to flourish here. Around 50% of the 300,000-acre Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is rainforest, found only here on the islands. And Ranger Dean Gallagher has made it his mission to protect them.
Many of the species surrounding us are absolutely unique to Hawaii. Some of this stuff you couldn't make up in science fiction. It's so incredible. Over deep time, these species, in order to survive here, had to be able to adapt to life on a volcano. So one of the trees we're standing next to, Ohia lehua, this tree, the stomata, the plant cell on the leaf that allows it to breathe, when the sulfur dioxide levels get high here in the forest, they actually close their stomata. The tree can literally hold its breath for days at a time. So the tree doesn't just live on the volcano, it thrives here. These forests do get destroyed by lava flows, but these are actually well adapted to recolonize new lava flows. Right here, we've had the geologists dig down, and this is the 4th or the 5th forest on this exact spot. So lava flows have come over here, obliterated the forest, but then left areas of green left alone. Those are kipukas. And what we've learned is kipukas are critical to reforestation because those are the seed source.
The alien world produced by the lava is home to more than 10,000 species found only here on Hawaii. From the hardy ohia trees to happy-faced spiders, Hawaii is a Pacific Eden.
It could take up to 200 years before a forest starts looking like it does around us. First, the pioneer species have to move in, build the first soil layers, then other species can move in, and finally, a dense canopy like this forms. The thing is, what looks so robust and so resilient after the lava flows is actually quite vulnerable. Introduced animals such as goats, pigs, can devastate this native forest.
This alien world is now home to more than 10,000 species found only here on Hawaii. These unique jungles are under threat from non-native wild pigs and goats who tear up the delicate plants. It's up to John Fafford and his fencing crew to keep them out.
Well, my role here in the park is to make sure that our fences are up to par to keep the pigs out of the area. It's an ongoing battle.
Today, he's checking a 3-kilometer section north of the volcano.
I inspected the fence and it does look really deteriorated. I think we should schedule a flight to get all the fence material out here as soon as possible.
These fences are under constant attack by the high rainfall and acidic fogs created by the volcanoes. But getting replacement materials out to this impenetrable rainforest takes extreme measures.
419, copy. 1 meter fencing material. We'll be contacting Heliops, 1 Victor Tango.
But the unpredictable Hawaiian weather could bring the whole operation to a halt. The east coast of the Big Island has the highest rainfall in the US. Combine that with low cloud cover, a steaming rainforest, and strong winter trade winds, and you've got nightmarish flying conditions. Seasoned pilot David Okita makes it look only too easy.
We have an excellent pilot. He's able to drop any material that we need at the exact location.
And with the materials in position, the fencing team jump into action.
This area that we're in right now is exposed, but not severely exposed to the fog. So we're hoping that it will last at least 30 years.
For Big Island residents, the dangerous acid fogs and mesmerizing eruptions of Kilauea are a source of wonder and worry in equal measure.
The 800-pound gorilla for volcanic hazards on the island of Hawaii is really Mauna Loa.
Rising from the ocean floor 5,000 meters below, it makes up more than half the Big Island. It is so huge that it even bends the Earth's crust below it. And it is still very active, last erupting only decades ago.
In 1984, the eruption on Mauna Loa produced in 20 minutes what Kilauea produces in an entire day.
Frank Truesdale has been studying Mauna Loa for the last 20 years, intricately mapping the old flows to build up a clear image of just how the volcano behaves. His most powerful tools are the tiny pieces of burnt plants trapped between the lava flows every time a new flow comes through.
Can you imagine that a young lava flow comes into this area, encounters the vegetation, and it turns the dense pieces into charcoal. And at that point, we can use that charcoal to date the eruption. But here on the bottom of this flow, all of these channels and galleries here are actually plant imprints.
By carbon dating these tiny pieces of charcoal, Frank knows almost exactly when each eruption took place and can see just where they went.
This one right here, that's good enough to date the lava flow. So we scored, yes! It's a good day in the field. We look at the last 170 years, Mauna Loa has erupted 33 times, so an average of 1 eruption every 5 years. Eruptions typically start with a fissure, a long extended crack, and then the lava will make a continuous curtain of fire across the summit. And lava flows have a tendency to reach the ocean in a matter of hours. Not days, hours.
Mauna Loa's destructive potential makes Kilauea's flows seem like a trickle. And with more than 50,000 people living within reach of these lava flows, the potential fallout could be devastating. To give them the most warning possible, the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory has built a vast array of GPS, seismic, and gas sensors encircling the volcanoes. Dr. Wes Thielen is in charge of the seismic network.
Here we are at the Devil Seismic and GPS station. And what you see here is all the equipment that we use to monitor the volcano. This is a GPS monument. This gets us down to seeing changes that are on the order of millimeters. We have lots of them around the volcano, and it's telling us how the ground is moving.
Before an eruption, lava pours into vast underground magma chambers, stretching the mountain above it like a balloon that's ready to burst. But this is just the first gadget in the HVO's comprehensive toolbox.
This is our seismometer vault, and contained within here is a seismometer. This is a very sensitive instrument, and the seismic waves that it's recording, oftentimes people can't even feel. The wind that's blowing through the trees will record on the seismometers. Walking around will record on the seismometers.
By having a network of these sensors, they can rule out shakes caused by people and pinpoint the location of those caused by the volcanoes. Depending on the sound of the earthquake, they can tell just what might be happening under their feet.
Our smaller earthquakes we can get from the volcanic activity of the island. When we have magma that's under the ground that's pressing on the rock around it, there are signatures in the seismic waves that we record from these earthquakes that tell us what generated those earthquakes.
It's down to the observatory scientists to take all of this information and make a diagnosis about what they think is happening to the volcano.
There should be no surprises with the next eruption. We're pretty much monitoring the influx of lava into the volcanoes. When the pressure builds up, the first thing to show is the ground deformation sensors will tell us the volcano is swelling. Then the rocks will start to fracture and crack, so the earthquakes will go up. Well, one way to think about it is that monitoring volcanoes could be similar to trying to look at a patient. The deformation, sort of the internal pressure, that's analogous to having blood pressure. And then the seismicity would be akin to the heartbeat.
And a decade ago, some serious symptoms started to appear.
We've had indications that Mauna Loa was swelling, but there wasn't any co-eruptive seismicity. The blood pressure of the patient was going up, but we didn't get excited because there was no heartbeat. And we really need both of those things in order to get an eruption.
More than 400,000 people have moved to the state of Hawaii since Mauna Loa last erupted. And the fastest growing area is the cheap land on the Big Island, around the feet of the volcanoes. But for all their technology, today's residents have no choice but to learn to live with the volcanoes, just as the ancient Hawaiians always have.
Even though we have 100 years of fairly scientific observation of Hawaiian volcanoes, we'd be foolish not to try to inquire what the native populations understood. They've been around for 1,000 years or more. And so we look to combine the Western thought with the indigenous knowledge.
Far from forgetting the island's ancient link to the volcanoes, it's never been more important to the people of Hawaii.
Volcanic eruptions actually provide the life that we need for where we live. It's our spirit.
Pouring millions of tons of molten rock into the sea, these volcanoes have built the vast rock reefs on the ocean floor. With the thousands of miles of open water in every direction and huge Pacific storms lurking over the horizon, the volcanoes have made the perfect conditions for the famed Hawaiian surf. For hundreds of years, these waves have been ridden by native Hawaiians as a way of honoring the gods and testing their strength. Here on the north shore of Oahu, Tom Stone is undertaking some unique cultural research.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the one you're looking at, man.
Unlike our modern fiberglass and polystyrene boards, these wooden planks have been surfed by Hawaiians for more than 250 years.
My ancestors were using wood boards, and the wood boards range from anywhere between 2 feet high to 28 feet tall. It's like a skateboard, man. You just stick it to the wall and hang on.
This is about a good 38 pounds heavier than my board. It's hard to get momentum to get those things going. You really got to paddle fast and hard they get the board up on a plane to start moving somewhere. Otherwise, you're just kind of paddling and sinking at the same time. Wooden boards is tough. They kind of have a mind of their own. About every other wave usually ends in some kind of small disaster. Caught some waves on the head, a couple wipeouts here and there, but didn't drown. It's pretty graceful feeling, although it may not look too graceful, but it's definitely very unique.
Surfers today, they have it easy, but in the older time, it was a difficult thing to ride a surfboard. It was all about having to make the boards as well as learn to ride them.
Tom has been making and riding these boards for 20 years, finding out how ancient Hawaiians surfed firsthand. He now wants to use the same approach to get to the bottom of another ancient Hawaiian sport, the even more unlikely He'e Halua.
The art of jumping off a mountain, that's what Holua is about.
To show respect for the volcano goddess Pele, brave Hawaiians would toboggan down bare rock surfaces. Tom's planning a hands-on experiment to find out just how they did it.
Not much is really known. 98% of the knowledge is gone. It is pretty much an archaeological experiment. And this is an opportunity for us to learn more about Holua.
But before he can even begin to work out the best way to ride the sled, Tom needs something to slide down.
Traditionally, we used to ride old lava flows, and we would groom those old lava flows. And that's how we honored the God that creates the land. You know, there's never been a rock slide constructed, so this is the first one. So this might not be a very large one, but it's similar to a lot of Holua slides that are spread out across Hawaii or were spread out across Hawaii.
It's probably the first Holua sled run to be built for hundreds of years. And the lava god's role today is just as important as it was in the time of Captain Cook.
Holua is very sacred. It's a ritualism of life and death. You know, we have to honor our kupuna, or our ancestors, and especially Pele, the volcano goddess. The whole principle of making something like this, it's a representation of her physically.
Even on this slide, built from scratch by Tom and his family, he needs to be extremely careful.
Yeah, right with that. Lots of debris, so we always got to check. That's what we're doing, is checking, because you don't want something like that impaling your body. Yeah. I mean, it might be blunt, but if we're moving, it's going in.
This isn't his first brush with the dangers of He'e Halua.
What happened is I was a little out of balance. The sled rolled over to one side, and as it rolled over, the bamboo catches the ground and it just stopped. And your body continues.
Tom was propelled face first into the shattered wooden sled.
Went through a part of my eye over here, and then from there it went through the upper lip, and it pulled the flesh away from the bone. Oh my God.
Today, Tom is hoping that a blessing dedicated to the volcano goddess will be enough to keep him safe on the new run's maiden voyage. The first run goes smoothly, but to really prove himself, Tom will have to ride the sled while standing.
Can you imagine this coming apart? Everything's gonna be sticking out of your body. It's gonna kill you. Okay, we're good to go. Let's go try it out. Holua itself means to be two together. You trust your sled and you connect with it. Two spirits that bond together in life or death.
With only his sled to protect him from a painful impact with the lava rock, Tom presents himself as an offering.
It's our way of honoring Pele, the volcano goddess who creates the islands, right? And that simulation of riding down a lava flow, on this wave of molten earth flowing down like, you know, like water. It was a great run. It's been a lot of work, but in the end, it has paid off. Now we actually have something physical to work with. We don't have to talk about it no more. It's here. It's become part of our life again.
Hawaiians have known for generations just how central the volcanoes are to their islands. Today, the scientists can't stop the volcanic eruptions, but they are starting to understand the movement of these explosive mountains.
Hawaii is all volcanic. A lot of people arrive at the airport and say, "Where's the volcano?" and not realizing that they're standing on one. You cannot live on this island without understanding that you're living on active volcanoes. You need to take all aspects of volcanism. There are many good ones as well as some less desirable ones, but that's all part of living in Hawaii.
While they can't see into the future, they can try to make this seething giant a safer place to live.
It's kind of mesmerizing. You're watching the beauty, but yet you understand that if you get any closer, that beauty then becomes a beast. It'll swallow you up. So you got that death and destruction mode, but yet, as it hits the sea and it forms new land, you got new life, new birth. You know, I believe that the volcano for the Big Island is what makes us what we are today.